Welcome everyone to the JBK Show. On this week's episode, we have another great international US guest, one of my personal favourite comedians who we found on social media, Tyler Fischer, all the way from New York City. Are you in New York right now, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. That's right.
Your jumper says Maine. Is that just to throw people off?
Oh, yeah. This is where I wish I was.
Well, mate, we appreciate your time. Thank you for jumping on. Like I said, we're personal fans of yours. We've been following each other for some time now. What's it like overseas now, and what's it like being on the comedy scene overseas?
New York right now is an absolute hellhole, to be honest. But nobody wants to talk about it because you'd be called racist or some bullshit. So, you know, it's aside from that, you know, aside from being accosted from homeless people outside of comedy clubs, actually somebody was maced last night outside of the comedy club.
Oh, that happens. That happens.
I'll sum this up for you. If you, this will clear up exactly how upside down things are. A homeless guy was accosting me and the security guard. He was coming after us. We had to hide. We had to hide in one of those little makeshift restaurants.
Yeah, on the sidewalks.
Yeah, we had to hide and hold the doors. It was actually really scary. So we called the cops. The cops come. They let the guy go. Then the security guard pushing him away. So the homeless guy calls the cops.
He had a phone?
The homeless guy goes after the security guard. The security guard maced the homeless guy.
Yeah,
and
geez.
The security guard went to jail.
That's where we're at. That's where New York City's at.
That's where we're at, and he got fired.
Well, mate, I want to give Australians a little bit of a background of yourself because you've been on the comedy scene for a while. You're also an actor, comedian. How did you get into comedy?
I was just a real piece of crap kid. I was, you know, no discipline, so I would just act out in school. I would... You know, the teacher would go to the bathroom. I would sometimes if they'd had a change of clothes, I would dress up as the teacher and do an impression of you know, some bitchy Latin teacher, and she'd come back and I'd get suspended. But I always got rewarded for it. So even I got in trouble, but my parents would kind of brag about something funny I did. So I was like, oh, I guess that's how I get attention. And I started doing some improv comedy because I was failing out of high school, and I was friends with the acting teacher. So I took his class so he would give me an A. But just doing some improv and stuff, and the girls were laughing. I was like, oh, girls are taking interest in me. People seem to like me. I hate school.
That's hard. That's hard for us short people, Tyler. I know. So I get where you're coming from.
Are you height challenged?
Are you guys height challenged? We're about 5'8".
5'9".
Yeah, we tell people 5'9".
Oh, you don't know what short is, pal. 5'8".
What are you measuring in at?
I'm 5'5".
Okay, yeah, you've got us there.
So that's how I got into it, and then I did some acting in college. Moved to New York, but stand-up gave you that like quick hit rather than rehearsing a play for months that nobody's gonna see.
And then when did you kind of transition to social media, TikTok, YouTube? When did that kind of start up for you?
Transition? Please don't undermine trans. Yeah, you can't say transition, even if you're going to transition, okay? So I'm actually sorry. Say that one more time.
When did you want to make the move from stand-up and kind of incorporate social media, YouTube, TikTok into your arsenal?
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is that was actually an effect of all this woke crap. So I slowly started to lose work from auditions. I was a commercial actor. I was doing TV commercials, TV shows, and my agents slowly started saying, like, it's not looking good for the old Whitey Ford over there. So whenever I would get turned down or I'd lose a job, I would make my own, I make a video as a way to kind of stay active. So that's what's so interesting about it. Like the whole Hollywood woke stuff is what caused me to now have, almost 1 million followers on the internet, which is mind blowing to me.
Do you find it crazy that, social media is now a staple more so than just traditional stand-up? Like, if you're a stand-up, you need to be on social media pushing your stand-up. We've seen your clips online. If you look at someone like Andrew Schulz, he was almost the one that pushed that, you know, putting out your crowd work on social media to get that, you know, show your tour dates or show people that you're a stand-up now. Is it crazy that that's the main medium now?
It's great. It's a real democratic, I guess, you know, more of a fair and balanced way for talent to rise to the top. Because really, if you didn't have an agent or a manager, and just to give you an idea, I've got 1 million followers. I'm making good money. I'm at the Comedy Cellar 15 to 20 shows a week. I'm touring. I have 100 TV and film acting credits. I can't get an agent.
Wow.
I cannot.
They won't take you on?
No, they won't take me on. So,
do you think that's because you're in New York? That's kind of the height of the PC culture. If you were somewhere like maybe a Florida or a Texas, would that change it?
Doesn't matter where you are anymore. So, you know, I've had managers in LA that rep me here. You know, people in Nashville I've talked to. It doesn't really matter where you are because you self-tape now. So, no, it's full blown. All the trigger words: diversity, inclusion, equity, which just basically means the least straight white men possible. That's what those words mean. They don't tell you that, but
you fall into that category.
It's hard being a white man right now. I'll tell you that much. We're going to be claiming diversity as much as we can if we ever make our way to the States. But
yeah, but you guys have you have sun privilege. Like you guys are roasted over there. Look how pale I am. Look at this.
Jeez, you definitely burn in the Australian sun. What are your initial thoughts on Australia? Because I don't know if you've ever been down here, but a lot of people resonated with your content, especially during the last 2 years when we were in lockdown. I remember people such like Andrew Bogut was sharing your content, and you know, that's where we kind of came to know you, was your lockdown type content. And what were your thoughts on Australia during that time?
I was kind of heartbroken for you guys. It was painful to even now. I was just basing that on my fans that were DMing me. So the media wasn't covering it besides Fox News, you know, a couple more right-wing media outlets. So now maybe you guys can speak to that. Was it as bad as people were saying?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I mean, we were in a big kind of lockdown for a good period of time, but I feel like New York had it just as bad too, you know, in terms of lockdown where you were. How did you find it? Because I feel like there was a point there where all our content was just about lockdown. Do you remember that? Like for a good year period. And, you know, you had your Dr. Fauci impressions that you would do, you know, your classic liberal character that you would do. Did it feel like that for that whole period of time? It was just all we could talk about was lockdown.
Yeah. And I've had people get mad at me about that. And I was like, well, I wasn't living life. I wasn't dating. I wasn't leaving my house. What do you expect? You know, we're not all, what's her name? Whoever that woman is that wrote Harry Potter. Somebody with that extraordinary. Yeah, the transphobe. Most people don't have that kind of unbelievable imagination. So it was also therapeutic to be able to make fun of it and you know, which ended up changing my life, and not with any purpose. There was no like, I wasn't set out to do that, but I didn't realize how many people were in a similar boat, feeling manipulated and forced to get the vaccine, and it damaged a lot of people, like in a serious way. It's still heartbreaking to see it.
For the content that we made down here, it was kind of considered anti-lockdown content. I'm pretty sure you'd probably be considered the same. Did you get much backlash from people in the States or even online about your content?
I did, but if you trust your gut, again, I didn't know how it would turn out. I would slowly test out ideas and make a video that was based on like, maybe not all white people are racist. And then I'd freak out and I would go to delete it. But then I'd look at it and go, oh, I got, 100,000 views and 99% positive feedback. So over time, I realized most people enjoyed it. And then I kind of had that big support system where it became easier to post it. But no, I lost friends. You know, I lose friends all the time just from all sorts of jokes. You know, everybody, and it's not just on the left; it's on the right as well. I lose people all the time who will write to me and be like, you're evil, you're racist, you're this, you're that, just because I touched on their little safe space one time.
Do you feel like comedy should be a safe place from any sort of backlash? Because we have backlash here with comedians maybe overstepping with dark humor. Do you think comedy, and we just had Chappelle down here recently, and, you know, he does the no phones in the, you know, when he's doing his set. And he just goes all out when there's no phones. It's nothing like you'll see on his Netflix special. You know, he's going at everyone, you know, the LGBT community, you know,
disabled.
The disabled as well. And that's the intention behind it. He's doing it to make people laugh, not to punch down, so to speak. Do you feel like, you know, comedy should be that kind of safe space where it's a creative art form and shouldn't be scrutinized as much, or people should be cancelled?
Well, it depends, because now comedy is available in so many different forms. You know, tonight I'm going to the Comedy Cellar and they lock the phones away. So I feel a little extra free to play around, because if something really tanks, what's the worst that happens? You just move on to another joke. If it's on Twitter, you're opening it up to people who might not enjoy comedy or different types of comedy, who are set out to attack you. So you have to really, if you're an artist today, you really have to compartmentalize where your comedy is, you know. And on Twitter, I say more outrageous things because it helps me find where the line is, because that's, you know, my life dream isn't to be big on Twitter, it's to be a good stand-up. So I'll definitely cross the line on social media, and then I bring it back a little when I perform on stage. But no, there's no safe space. Art isn't safe, but it's definitely shocking to have people disown you for let's say I've had fans that have been fans of mine for 10 years and like everything I've done, and then they won't like one thing, and they'll publicly shame me and all this stuff, but it doesn't bother me so much anymore.
For example, Dave Chappelle, he made those transphobic jokes. Do you feel as though that is wrong, where he should be able to make a joke and move on? He's saying it in the realm of that it is a joke. So if you ever do that and make a transphobic joke, which I'm assuming you have, do you think that the backlash from that, being cancelled from that, is like people are overreacting and that's a problem with society?
Well, I think we have to be really specific. To quote Jordan Peterson, it's like you got to be precise in your speech. It's like, bloody hell, what do you mean by transphobic? What do you mean? But I really mean that. You have to be precise, because people will say, what do you think about his transphobic jokes? What does transphobic mean? And were they transphobic, or are we now labeling them transphobic? Are 99% of people labeling them transphobic because 0.0001% called it transphobic? Or is it just a joke that involves a type of person, which I would say it's the latter. So I am very careful when I define this stuff, because it also, when you're writing it, it helps you really explore and say, this is not transphobic, but some people might call it that. However, 90% of Americans would be happy to laugh at it.
That 0.0001%, as you learned from COVID, is a very, very strong 0.01%.
Yeah.
A lot of people can take a lot from that percentage.
Yes, but you still have to, you can't budge on the definitions of stuff, because I just had somebody challenge me on that. And I I'm not for kids transitioning, period. You know, if you're under 18 and they said, wow, you're very political. And I said, that's not a political stance. He's like, yeah, that's political. Now that's political. I said, no, you're just taking the bait. So it takes a lot of parsing out, but I think if you don't apologize, not to speak for Dave Chappelle, who earned his stripes, he's one of the best comics ever, but and easier said than done. But part of me wishes that he never even responded to any of this, because he would have been way stronger to continue if he just didn't respond to any of these accusations.
I mean, that's probably like where the state of comedy is at. But you touched on that Jordan Peterson impression. You're pretty unbelievable when it comes to impressions. It's one of your staples of your content. You just gave us Jordan Peterson. One of your better ones is also, you got Ben Shapiro in the arsenal. You got Owen Wilson. Who else do you got? Who else do you usually rattle off? Because they're pretty spot on. You do some Donald Trump ones. How did you get into knocking out those impressions?
Well, the Ben Shapiro, I'm drinking coffee right now, and if you drink a couple shots of coffee, basically you just speed up your voice, and that's shake your head occasionally and talk about the far, far, far left. And AOC is a stupid.
And you also chuck in subscribe to Daily Wire or ExpressVPN, and you throw in the ads. You always throw in the ads because they're a staple of Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. I'm picturing him like even giving a eulogy, being like, Greg was a great guy, but he didn't get enough sleep. If he only used his Helix sleep mattress, use 10% off. I'm just like, this guy is the best salesperson ever.
And then Owen Wilson, you're obviously an actor. You've acted in a Daily Wire film, I believe. What about Owen Wilson? That's just, I feel like a lot of people can do it, but you do him fairly well.
Yeah, the Owen Wilson. Once you get the wow down, wow. I mean, you just kind of you always look at their mouth to see what shape it is, because it's like an instrument. It creates the sound. I had come off stage one night doing the impression of him, and I walk around the corner and he's standing right there. Wow, I know. And I totally freaked him out. I go, hey, I was just up there doing you. I was you in there. And he was like, oh God. Oh man, I totally freaked out.
How does that make you feel when you get some recognition almost from some people that have made it, whether it's in Hollywood or in comedy? I know, you've had, people in your comments like Jamie Foxx, or, even people like Caitlyn Jenner sharing some of your stuff. How does that make you feel when you get that recognition from people in the mainstream almost?
Bruce Jenner.
Yeah, it's whoa.
Hey, what are you doing there?
It's just, it's wild. I was kind of down and out. I just got fired from an acting agent, quite literally, for being white. They told me that, and I kind of was just like, I kind of lost hope a little bit. And I checked my DMs and says Jamie Foxx left you a voice note, and I was like, what the fuck? And he's just like, hey man, Tyler, I don't know where you are right now, man, but you a funny guy, and just, I hope, let's keep in touch. And I was like, what? Keep in touch? What are you talking about? But you know what? And I'm not, this isn't about Jamie Foxx or him in particular, but after the pandemic, to see how really quiet celebrities were about some really awful stuff, it changed my view of celebrity. And I think in a good way. I don't think I'm as naive anymore. I don't think I put them on this pedestal. The rock stars to me now are guys like you and Jordan and JP Sears and all these guys that stood up to this stuff. So it's changed my view of my admiration for these people.
Mate, we really appreciate that. But I mean, I remember when like I said, we were fans of you, and when we were in New York, pretty much on the back end of lockdown here, I remember hitting you up and like, mate, I would love to collab, because I've seen you collaborate with JP and do some really cool stuff and some funny stuff. And I'll throw to this in the show, but I've seen you, do the left versus right sponsorships, or, like your Dr. Fauci impression. Yeah, or your, trying
to campaign for votes.
How news anchors are around election time with the black vote, I think is very funny. And when they drop the Hispanic vote and stuff like that. But who do you say you enjoy collabing most with? I know you've collaborated with a lot of content creators. Who would you say are in your top 2, top 3 content creators right now in the States?
I actually haven't done much collaboration besides I did the one with JP Sears. one with Ryan Long. So those are my top two, and I really do love both of them, and I get to do stand up with Ryan Long almost every night, which is so fun because, again, he's one of those guys I see as a rock star because he makes fun of everything, and he takes big risks on stage, which is so fun to watch.
Have you reached out to maybe Peterson or Shapiro to do the impression with them and kind of collaborate that way?
Yeah, I actually pitched Ben on that, and he agreed. But then a scheduling conflict came up, so I just missed it. I met Jordan a couple months ago, and yeah, I would love to do something with him. But he's changed my entire life in unbelievable ways. So I'm not going to push it. If it happens naturally, it'd be
There's
wonderful.
a lot of fans of his down in Australia. Another great impression I think you do is the Dr. Fauci one, and that's one that got a lot of recognition over here in Australia too. Yeah, I feel like he's kind of gone out of the news cycle. How did you kind of come up with doing your best Dr. Fauci? Is it because he was in the news all the time and you're just like, I'm going to, get his voice down pat?
Actually, believe it or not, I used to audition all the time, and I got an audition for the role of Dr. Fauci in, I think it's Stephen Colbert has his own animated show. Now, to be clear, I think he's completely sold out and is one of the least funny comedians around. And I used
that's most of late night TV, Tyler. Now everyone's dancing and singing songs now and fake laughing. It's not really that funny.
You were on Colbert in about 2018, was it?
Yeah. Colbert should just be called The Pfizer Show, brought to you by Occasional Comedy. Because he's still, he still can land a good joke, and I've seen funny stuff. But I did a sketch on his show, and he wasn't there. And something everyone should know about Colbert, which I think is pathetic, he no longer stays to watch the stand-up comedians perform on his own show. And I think it's because he's such an egotistical narcissist that he doesn't like being upstaged. And so I saw a close friend of mine, it was his dream to be on the show. He flew from LA, he did stand-up on the show, and he gets on stage to do his set. He looks over, and Colbert's not there. And they have you fake saying hello to him, and then Colbert fake saying hello after. And I just think that's absolutely pathetic.
Yeah. I mean, gone are the days, Tyler, of like your Johnny Carson that would put a comedian on and give him the okay sign, and that was really everyone's dream.
Yeah, that was some great stuff. Weird, wild stuff. Jerry Seinfeld, take a bow, Jerry. So that's how I did the Fauci, was auditioning for the voice of Fauci, which now that I know Colbert's, angle, I'm sure the Fauci role wouldn't have even been funny. But I did not get the role. It was down to me and one other guy. I thought I was going to get it. And I was pretty depressed because this was peak lockdown. And I'm just sitting on my couch. I was like, wait a minute. I spent all that time learning that audition. So I just took my phone, and did just a somewhat improvised video, being like, you got to wear your mask in the shower because the COVID droplets can go through the drain, come up through somebody else's toilet, enter in through the anus region, and now they've got COVID. And I just put it online. I mean, I make so many damn videos, like 1 out of 20 hits. So I never think, oh, this is going to be something. But I kind of got lightning in a bottle because nobody was making fun of him. And so that impression was just available, which is crazy. This is the number one face in the public eye for 2 years, and nobody's doing it. And shit got pretty crazy because I ended up calling in on radio shows like 24/7, doing voices for music videos of Fauci, and it was wild. I didn't sleep for about 2 months.
And when you bring that up, like, like you said, no one's doing his impression. No one's doing comedy on him on national TV. Like SNL used to be a staple of making fun of your politicians and used to be the height of late night television. I feel like someone like yourself, stand-up comedian, does a bunch of impressions. You're pretty much the perfect criteria for an SNL cast member But do you think no one aspires to be like that anymore because of the way that they put out content now? It's just not funny. It's politically motivated. What are your thoughts on the state of late night TV now?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Being on SNL was definitely a dream for years. And every year around June, right before the audition, some big agent would see me doing stand-up and going, "Why aren't you on SNL? I'm going to get you on SNL." And people tried for 5-6 years in a row. And when I tell you, they did not want me to even audition. So I never even got the live audition to that show. I performed last night with Michael Che, the head writer, and it is what it is. But again, it's a blessing, because if I got on the show, I would not have been allowed to make fun of anybody on the political left. And that would have robbed me of this incredible, free, fun career I have now.
Yeah, they can rot away with the pansy Pete Davidson, and you can be free making your own content, which is much better.
And on that, so you're doing stand up, most nights. Where have you found your best received across the states? I know you've travelled overseas to Europe. You got a pretty decent fan base in Australia, I'd like to say. Where do you think you're best received for your comedy?
It's all about what combination of people end in that room. You've got a random selection of humans that come together, and they really take on a similar energy. It's really fascinating. Halfway through the night, you see the laughs all rise and fall together. It's kind of magical. It's almost like how women's periods sync up when they're in the same room. Not that I would know about that, but or men's periods. Or
hey,
whatever.
I won't assume, Tyler.
Yeah, you look a little blotty on your jean shorts there. But so I don't change anything, which I think is a good way to approach it. A lot of people are like, wait till you get to Texas. Your stuff is gonna kill. And I did a show in Texas, and I nearly bombed. So that material worked better in woke ass Brooklyn.
Wow.
So it's about the way you present it. If you're confident, and if you don't back down, I think you can find a way to massage the jokes for any crowd. I mean, except the extreme woke people, but they're not really coming to comedy shows anymore.
For your comedy, not that I've been to a live show of yours, but what I've seen online is you love to interact with the crowd. You find maybe a stereotype out of a crowd member, and then you make a joke on that. Do you come prepared with those jokes, or is that completely off the cuff and stuff you're just making up on the spot?
Yeah, most of it is on the spot, and then over time you might interact with the same type of person, or same, person from Ireland who's drunk, or whatever it is. And then you might be able to develop that into a joke that you can pull out and make it seem like it's off the cuff. But I'm always trying to interact spontaneously to see what you never know what happens. I mean, last night I brought up the chemical spill in Ohio, and a guy started cheering. Woo! And I just thought, you're cheering for this thing? And so I had this long interaction with him, and then, said, "Oh, you must work for Pfizer, and you're going to get another vaccine out of this thing." And if you give them a little room to say what they want, you'll get something magical will happen.
Yeah, and we've seen those clips, and they do extremely well on social media. But I want to ask, there was a big public thing recently with Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire going back and forth. There's a big demand for comedy and content and social content. And Steven Crowder was offered something like $50 million to be on the Daily Wire. Have you ever been approached by, a Blaze or, the Daily Wire to have a show, or to be a comedian or a recurring character on a show?
Daily Wire offered me a deal that I just would not have taken. It was $49 million. And I thought, what am I, not as funny as Steven Crowder? I'm always pitching stuff. So, I really don't like getting kind of locked into a certain brand. Not to say if the Daily Wire said we want to produce a show with you, I would absolutely consider it. But the blessing of what happened during COVID was it got me to really solidify my values, because I gave up my favorite thing, which is doing stand-up in New York for a year or two, to stick to my guns. So it would have to, if I really didn't have to change my vision or censor myself, then I would be open to working with any of them.
That's pretty awesome, and like I think you've got a lot of opportunity coming your way. You're one of the funniest people that we follow on social media. But who would you, as a traditional stand-up comic, like you said, you gave that up for almost a year in New York. Who would you say your top 3 stand-up comedians are? Like, we just saw Dave Chappelle in Australia. We consider him one of the GOATs right now. Who do you look up to, or who would you say are the top 3 in the world right now?
Yeah, I've always been a big Bill Burr fan, right? I fucking love Bill Burr. He's got a fun voice, right? He kind of goes up here. And I just like how Bill Burr's a guy, he just doesn't back down, and he always goes right into the fire.
It is. He loves bringing his wife into it as well, and that's where he gets the high pitched voice.
Right. Yeah, my wife was fucking. And so he's great, man. He's one of the last guys that really, I think, goes for it like that. I grew up watching Richard Pryor. It's funny because with all this like identity race stuff, people will say, well, you can't pursue something if you don't see somebody that looks exactly like you, which is a real shame, because I was a 10-year-old white kid watching Richard Pryor and walking around the house quoting him like, "Mom, if you don't get me a fucking juicy juice, I'm going to shit on the bed. I'm going to shit on the couch, Jack." And he kind of inspired me to like do characters and change my voice. And kids today are taught like, well, if you're black and you don't see a successful black guy, you can't do that. Chris Rock, I performed with him twice this week. And I just thought, this is crazy. He was one of my inspirations, and now I'm performing with him. Love Seinfeld.
How often does the slap come up with Chris Rock?
I can't say, but he may touch on it in his comedy special that he's filming next month.
And I mean, when we were talking about the state of comedy, particularly, I mean, you were almost political commentary, the way that you do impressions of certain characters, and your skits on right versus left, right? But do you feel like Joe Biden, the president of the United States, maybe not so many people have touched him like on your SNLs and stuff like that? Do you think he's good for content, because he's honestly very easy to take the piss out of? I do feel like there was more jokes towards Donald Trump that were easier, late night jokes, going for low hanging fruit with Donald Trump. But I want to ask that, and then I want to also ask, who do you think would be the next best president for content?
Yeah, Biden is. I love doing a Biden impression on stage, where I'll do his speech, and then I'll walk off stage and just kind of get lost, and just does that kind of like I have to poop walk thing.
And shake invisible people's hand.
Yeah. The whole crowd likes it, and when I ask, what do you guys think of Biden? How do you feel about Biden? The crowd goes silent. And so it's rare if even one person claps, which is so odd to me. I'm not going to get into the election and if there was fraud or whatever, but like, I don't know one person that likes that guy. And so it doesn't make sense. He's a lot of fun to make fun of. And he does he yells, and then he'll lean down and whisper, which is my favorite thing. Like, we got just a great country, but it's racist, Jack. It's a racist country. Come on.
That's exactly his State of the Union speech.
So creepy.
Who's the next best president for content? Trump, Biden, or even a wild card, maybe Kamala?
Like a Ye or something, or Kanye, maybe?
Yeah, Trump is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, I do him every night too, because you can put him in any scenario and it's funny. Next, DeSantis, I hope he doesn't win just because he's not funny to me. There's nothing there for him.
Yeah, there isn't. He's very bland.
He does the same hand stuff as Trump, but his voice is not funny. I don't know. Pete Buttigieg might be fun.
Yeah, but you might get canceled for criticizing Pete.
No, at this point, if they can't take me down yet, there's no chance.
Well, I mean, look, Tyler, like I said, I really appreciate your time, and it's great speaking to another comedian over across in the US. I want to ask, you got a lot of fans down in Australia, and people that respect your content, and you having the balls to make a lot of comedy videos that not many people would make. What's the plans for 2023? What are some goals that you want to tick off with your comedy?
Yeah, I mean, I am trying to set up a tour. Like I said, I'm struggling to find an agent, so I don't even have a booking agent. I don't have a touring agent, even though I can sell out comedy clubs. So somebody is passing up on a shitload of money, which is hilarious to me. They're choosing, diversity and equity over a great stack of cash. So I'm working with I have a manager now, and we're doing it all on our own. So we're trying to set up shows around the country. But we'd like to come to Australia. We'd like to go to London. And the goal this year, I'm going to relaunch my podcast. And so that'll be hopefully the next month or two, where I can do stuff like this, interviews, live streams and stuff. I just want to be more connected to my people. And I'm going to pitch a movie. I think I'd like to make a feature film, because there is a gaping void right now for comedy movies, which is so tragic to me. How afraid
I can see you playing McGregor.
Yeah, well, also if you pitch it to a Netflix or maybe an Amazon, you're gonna have to put a couple of diverse characters in there. So I'm making sure you're aware of that. Make sure there's a lot of color in there. Make sure maybe there's some foreign people in there. I'm just giving you some tips for when you're pitching the film.
Well, I could just do my Richard Pryor, man. I could just do the black people. Shit, man.
I saw the shows you have coming up. I think you have a set on your birthday, and then I think another show in Austin, Texas. And something I saw on your website, which I absolutely loved, was you wrote, "Vaccine is not required upon entry." That's just massive respect. I absolutely love that. And
I got a lot of heat for that one.
Did you just do that to make a point, like, fuck you to everyone?
Well, I wanted to let my fans know that wouldn't happen, because I did a show where it was required, but I didn't know. And so that was a bit of a hellstorm to have fans reach out. You sold out, what the hell? So I said, look, I didn't know. I got them to take the vaccine requirement off, but they had to show a negative test. And I was like, even that shit, I faked my own test for that. So I just said, no tests, no vaccine, no masks. And I actually didn't know that was still up there, but I might as well leave it up, because there's going to be another vaccine for climate change or something where they're like, Fauci's probably going to roll out something. We got the climate change vaccine. It reduces your body temperature by 2 degrees. And collectively, that'll reduce the temperature. They'll do some dumb shit like that. So
at least it'll be good for content.
Yeah, it'll be great for content. And like I said, mate, yeah, you're absolutely killing it. Keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring creators all over the world, like Australia, like us. We appreciate your time. I know you got a set tonight at the Cellar, so we wish you all the best. Really appreciate your time. I'm sure when we're over in the States, we'll try and collaborate on some content for sure.
Sounds great. And I got I put out a comedy special for free that's on my YouTube page, Tyler Fischer. And you can go to tylerfischer.com and sign my mailing list at the bottom, so I know where to come tour.
And follow along on Instagram. You're on YouTube as well, at Tyler Fischer. Again, thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch, brother.
Thank you, guys. Stay small.
Awesome. Great speaking to you, mate.
Take care. Take it easy. You're a legend.